Right, welcome back. This is our first video of 2013. The latter half of 2012 I did the Bond 50 box set review going through the whole series, and I did touch on Never Say Never Again while I did that series. I could only touch on the DVD though because I did not have the Blu-ray, but now I have the Blu-ray, so my Bond Blu-ray collection is complete. Not including the original spoof of Casino Royale. I don't really... It's a spoof of a Bond film, whether it be licensed or not. It's just a spoof of a Bond film, not a real Bond film. But this here, many people call it an unofficial Bond film. It's definitely not an Eon Bond film, but they did have the rights to do the story, and it is a Bond film, isn't it, Pippi? So, Sean Connery comes back as Bond in Never Say Never Again. The title, of course, being the spoof that he said he would never do Bond again. Here he is doing it again. He was offered a lot of money by the people who owned the rights to Thunderball. The story behind that was before Ian Fleming had hooked up with Eon Productions, the Broccolis, he had worked on a story with another group, and they had created the Thunderball and a lot of characters and ideas which never came to fruition. Then later, I believe he wrote a book based on those ideas, and Eon made it as Thunderball. And there was a lawsuit, and as a part of that, the original co-creators of Thunderball retained the rights to make a remake of Thunderball, which they did here, eventually, many years later, bringing back the original James Bond, Sean Connery. And the film gets a lot of stick, and I'm really not sure why. I think it's just because it's Sean Connery is a little older, and that it was done not in Eon group of films, it was done outside them. But Sean Connery was actually younger than Roger Moore was when he did Octopussy the same year, so a lot of people assume that Roger Moore is younger than Sean Connery. It's not really the case. Now, Never Say Never Again is it's pretty close to Thunderball. It's been updated and there's a few changes, but it still feels like its own film, and it still feels like a Bond film. The one thing that's noticeably missing is the classic Bond score, and the score they have is adequate, but it's probably one of the bigger letdowns in the film. The film itself, though, is great. I think it's much better than the original Thunderball. Connery's having a blast. He's never been funnier. He's never been more charming. And it has the best villains and henchmen. The Largo in this film is one of my favourite Bond villains, and Barbara Carrera plays one of the best hench women ever in the Bond universe, called Fatima Blush. And Kim Basinger makes an excellent Bond girl in the film, so it has all those elements in place. A lot of fun. It does feel like a Bond film. Connery is great. The third act is a little bit bogged down and a bit of a mess, but the first two-thirds leading up are so much fun you can forgive the third act a little bit. If the third act had been stronger, this could be one of my all-time favourite Bond films. As it is, it's definitely in the top 10, and not ashamed to say it. Never Say Never Again is a great Bond film. Now the Blu-ray here, which I finally got, it's Region A locked. I managed to pick this up. It's not that easy to find these days. It's pretty much sold out, but I did find it through cdwow.com, who still had copies. Now it's the same as the DVD as far as special features. It's got a pretty good selection of special features. Not quite as good as the Ultimate Bonds had with the Eon released films, but it does have a commentary with director Irvin Kershner and James Bond historian Stephen J. Rubin, and it has 3 featurettes. The Big Gamble featurette, which talks about them putting together this film, opposing another Bond film, and then another featurette called Sean is Back, where a lot of the cast and crew talk about the return of Sean Connery and how he was to deal with on the set. and then another featurette about the girls of Never Say Never Again. A theatrical trailer and a photo gallery. So it's pretty good. 3 featurettes, a commentary, and some other bits and pieces are good. Now, there's been a lot of talk about how it got a bit of the raw deal on the picture, but the picture is actually pretty good. 80s film stock is notoriously sort of cheap and flat looking, and this looks like an 80s film, which the other 80s Bond films kind of look similar. So it's a little flat, but it's a perfectly adequate high-def transfer. It's got good resolution. There's not much in the way of print damage at all. Where it does get let down though is the audio. It's got a 5.1 DTS HD lossless audio, but it has very little pop. The voices are fine. You can hear all the dialogue just fine, but there is very little action in the rest speakers. I've read some reviews where it says there is none. That is not the case. There is some music in the background from time to time, but there's very little else in there. But it does come up. I could hear it quite clearly. The gunfire has no bass to it. It sounds very weak. It's just not a lot of impact. You can hear everything clear enough, but very little impact, very little bass, and very little surround in this audio treatment. But all in all, I say if you can still track down Never Say Never Again on Blu-ray and you want to complete your Bond Blu-ray collection along with Bond 50, pick up Never Say Never Again. Great Bond film with some of the best henchmen, the best Bond women, and one of Sean Connery's best performances. Okay, so that's all for now. We'll catch you next time, won't we, Pip? Yeah.